having leftover turkey can get kind of boring sometimes, just eating the same thing. So I've created these mini turkey pot pies just to keep you satisfied with different ideas throughout the week. So here is my mini stuffed turkey pot pie. And as you can see, it looks really flaky inside. So I start off with my homemade pie crust, but you can definitely just buy pre-made pie crust from the store. As you know, if you've ever made homemade pie crust, it's just very hard once it comes out of the fridge. So that's why you see me struggling a bit here. But yeah, I'm just rolling it out pretty thin, but not too thin. So this is about the thickness you want. And then I just get a cup. You could get any kind of circle item utensil that you have. And I'm just making even circles throughout the dough. So these are actually going to be for my bottoms, but I do have another set of dough that I'm going to roll out later for the tops. So I'm just removing the circle around the cutting board. And you do want it fairly thick. For the bottoms at least, that is, just so that when you're pressing it into the cup pan, that you could get it evenly covered throughout the whole muffin tin. You don't necessarily have to make them mini. You could honestly just do this in one entire really big pot pie pan, but I think that this just evenly distributes the crust more. And here I just have my muffin tin pan. And I'm going to spray it with some nonstick spray just to make sure that my dough doesn't stick once they're done out of the oven. So I'm just using some of that vegetable oil spray. You could wipe them down with butter. And as you can see, it's fairly thick and I'm just placing it in the bottom. But like I said, you do want to push up all the sides and you want it to cover the whole muffin tin in general so that you can have a whole cup, not just the bottom filled with the crust. And I'm just pushing that all around. So once I get it to the length that I want in the muffin tin, we're going to start on the sauce. I have here some butter. It is about 5 tablespoons of butter, and then I'm putting half of a chopped white onion and 2 whole carrot sticks chopped. Here that I'm adding the flour, it's about 1/4 cup of flour, and you just want to cook that on low for about a minute until it is all cooked through. You want to make sure it doesn't have that raw flour taste, so make sure you cook it for at least a minute on low, constantly stirring so it doesn't burn. As that's happening, after the minute, you want to just slowly add in your chicken broth. If you have turkey broth left over from the turkey, you can definitely use that. It works just as fine, but I did have chicken broth in the fridge, so I'm using chicken broth. And it's about 2 cups that I'm gradually adding in until it looks like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in about 1/3 cup of milk and about 1/2 cup of heavy cream. I'm stirring that together until it thickens up and mixes in completely. I have here about 1/2 cup of frozen peas, and I'm just adding that to my mix. You can definitely even add potatoes to this mixture if you want. I just like it with peas and carrots. So here I'm just putting in a sprig of thyme. The thyme is really optional. You don't have to add it. I just think it gives the whole pot pies a really nice flavor. So I'm mixing that together, and as far as the seasonings in here, I really just like to put salt and pepper and the thyme, but it's completely up to you what you want to do. I just say maybe about a teaspoon of salt that I put in there and just a little bit of ground black pepper. Definitely adjust it to your taste and your liking. So now to going to the star of the show, it's going to be the turkey. You can really play around with it and put as much or as little as you want. I personally say to do about 1 to 2 chopped cups of turkey. Right here, I'm just doing about 1.5 cups of chopped turkey. And then I'm just going to stir that into my mixture. And like I said, you could even play around with this and add potatoes if you guys like potatoes. So once it's done, you're just going to want to let it cool down a little bit. It doesn't have to be completely cooled off. And while you're waiting for it to cool, I'm just going to add in 1 egg into the little bowl that we used for the milk to pour into, our batter before. And you could just add a tablespoon of milk to an egg, and this is just going to give us our egg wash. And for our egg wash, we're going to just brush that on the tops later, you'll see. So going back to our cups for the pot pies, you're going to want to fill them with the mixture once it is cooled down. And here, make sure not to get too heavy-handed because it will be kind of hard to close the tops later with the other dough. So I just recommend not getting too crazy here with the filling. So yeah, I'm just filling each one. It does get a little bit messy, I'm not gonna lie. Probably should have just used a slotted spoon rather than this flatter spoon I have. But just fill those up evenly in between each cup. To be honest, I just ran out of dough, but I still did have extra filling to probably make another 5 whole mini turkey pot pies. So just keep that in mind as well, that it does make a lot of these mini pot pies for the filling. Just make sure you have enough dough. So here I am, and I'm just, like I said, filling the tops out, spreading them out a little bit more thinner just so that I can get an even distribution on top. And I'm just going to poke the sides in to the muffin tin just to kind of ensure that they're gapping and touching in with the bottom dough that we put in there earlier. So that's why I'm just using a flat butter knife to push that in. You can really create little designs, little pie designs if you want to get fancy with it. I personally was really hungry and just in a rush, so I just opted to push them down with a knife, and that was good enough for me. So once I get all the tops on, I'm just going to get our egg wash that we made earlier with the milk and egg, and we're going to brush that lightly on top. Make sure you don't put too much, but don't put too little, because this is going to really give our pot pies a really nice golden crust on top. And skipping this part will honestly make them very dull and just not as pretty. So just make sure you evenly do it. If you don't have a brush, you can just do what I'm doing and use the back of a flat spoon. It works just as well. And then you're going to want to poke little vent pockets on top. You could really just also poke one hole on top and it'll be fine. But I just like to do a little design for the pies in about fours, making a little star. So I just baked these, I want to say, for about 20 to 30 minutes until the crust got golden at around 400 degrees. And as you can see, when they're all done, I'm going to cut it open and your pot pies are going to be beautiful and not too runny or anything. There was just the perfect amount of crust to filling ratio.